Good morning, everyone. This is Servium calling. My name is Steve Dawes and I'm the Services Director. Welcome to the next episode in Season 4, so thank you for joining. INOOT Webinars focus on the technologies, the trends to look out for on the marketplace, the disruptive and innovations from the leading vendors that we believe that can address the business challenges that you face as IT professionals. Today, we're joined by Lenovo, talking about workstations and why more of the users need them. It's been dubbed as the power office. More of the users are now regularly using and juggling complex workloads and doing the devices that probably lack the punch they need. So we're really here today to dispel the myths around workstations. So I'm joined by James Clark from Lenovo. Good morning, James.
Good morning. How's things?
Very good. Thank you for taking the time out today to
Oh, thank you for having me.
So as usual, we're using Zoom to deliver the webinar today. There will be a recording that we'll share with you later and you can share with your colleagues. We'll also have questions and answers towards the end, because I always like to put my co-host and the subject matter expert on the spot, so you're not going to get that off today, James. We'll also take a poll and get feedback from you, and also there's some call to action as well that we'll discuss. And we also publish all our webinars on our YouTube channel. And right at the end, we have our prize draw as well. So we'll leave that to the end of the session. So before we start the session off, I always like to look back a little bit on history. Friday, the 27th of November. So quite interestingly, quite topical at the moment. In 1967, the French President Charles de Gaulle said no to Britain's entry to the European Common Market, as well as there for the second time. 2013, Disney's Frozen, which was the highest grossing animated film, was released. In 2017, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle announced their engagement. So that's a little look back in history, but more importantly, today is about INOOT and part of our role in helping create great experiences for you as our customers. So just a little bit of brief background before I hand over to James. So ultimately, you as our customers, we're there to understand your challenges, the business challenges. We want to walk in your shoes, troubleshoot, and help you as IT pros. And our approach is very much from a sort of cradle to grave, understanding from a life cycle point of view, your strategy design, how you're going to implement, how to support. But I think most importantly for me is the review. No matter how small or large a project is, or a requirement, or your challenge, let's review it at the end and make sure we've delivered it with exceptional service to high standards within your budget. And we deliver that through our services ecosystem, through our partners such as Lenovo, but we have a tremendous breadth and depth of resource that you as our customers have access to. And I think where we're really unique in the marketplace is our transparent approach to services and service delivery. When we use partners, we tell you who we're using, why we're using those particular subject matter experts. So I think that's really, really important. But yes, our customers have access to all this resource and capability. And when we look at our Pathfinder and where particularly the workstation space fits, it's very much in workspace. So that's me done. James, I'll hand over to you and let's dispel those myths.
Thank you very much, Steve. So good morning, everybody. Yeah, as Steve has very kindly introduced, I'm James Clark. I'm the workstation technologist here at Lenovo UK. I spend a great deal of my time playing around with presentations, playing around with new kit, and coming to talk to you lovely folks about it. So without further ado, I want to get straight into things. You know, how many of you, and this is sort of my leading question, how many of you have had colleagues, employees, customers talk to you about Excel working like an absolute dog? It's a really common problem, and one that, you know, nearly every single customer that we talk to, every single company that we talk to experiences at some stage, more often than not in their finance departments. I say the finance departments because, you know, these are your kind of users that tend to use massive data sets in Excel. And they find that, you know, opening times are getting slower. Trying to scroll through all of that data that they've got in front of them is taking longer and longer to do. So why is that? More to the point, how can workstations help? You know, workstations have this stigma about them that they're these big, heavy desktops, which, you know, you can see on your screen. And, you know, in some cases that is true. We do have some big, heavy bits of equipment, you know, big workhorses that are designed to do a lot of powerful work. But that doesn't have to be the case. You know, workstations have a place in every single organization. They're not just for these core elite designers, you know, your CAD engineers, your data scientists, your graphical engineers. You know, there is a place for workstations in every single organization. So how so? Let's move on to the first slide. If my keyboard wakes up, there we go. This bit of work that we've been working on for quite some time now is called Power Office. And like I said, a lot of the customers that we've spoken to have seen this issue where they're using everyday laptops, you know, your commercial grade laptops that are fantastic bits of kit, but just occasionally they start to struggle when they start to get, you know, really bogged down in quite large office work. Just your day-to-day applications, things like your web browsers, Excel, I've already mentioned, Outlook, so on and so forth. And why is that? Now, if we look at sort of historical sort of usage, you know, moving from Windows 7 to Windows 10 saw a massive increase in CPU consumption, a massive increase. And, you know, this isn't something that everyone takes into account. You know, how much more resource hungry Windows 10 is over Windows 7. Everybody knew it was more resource hungry, but why? Why is it so bad? And it's because Microsoft are really bringing things in line with their Xbox user interface. You know, they're making things prettier, they're making things look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing for people like millennials and Gen Zs that are coming up into the business world afresh. They're trying to make things feel a little more comfortable for them, you know, balancing that work and home life. But it's not just Windows that has the big effect as well. When we look at the effect that this has on Office as well, we're seeing huge jumps, not only in CPU consumption, but GPU consumption as well. This is your graphics utilization. Now, the numbers that are in front of you represent the increase in GPU consumption moving from Windows 7 to Windows 10 using the same version of Office. So if we put this into context, say the year is 2017, okay? Yesterday, you had Windows 7 installed and Office 2016. You wake up today, you come into the office, you log on, and overnight, IT departments installed Windows 10 on your PC. You've got exactly the same version of Office. You're still using Office 2016. But overnight, you're seeing a 53% increase just in using Excel alone in GPU consumption. Now, that's massive. Fast forward a year, you can see that these numbers jump even more. 75% in Excel. And Excel's quite a prevalent use case because this is where a lot of that data is being used, as I said before, by many different departments, but quite prevalently the finance department. When you look across the board, things like Outlook, everyone's got an instance of Outlook open, you know, all through the working day. When we find ourselves in these times, you know, everyone's at home, everyone's on a Skype call or a Teams call or a Zoom call every waking hour of the day. And all these are starting to stack up. If you're like me, you've probably got 4 or 5 instances of Excel, maybe a few instances of PowerPoint as well. Outlook, as I've already said, is running constantly. You've probably got several browsers open at the same time as well. And as I've already said, we're on a video call every single hour of the day. And all of this is mounting up. Now, if you're on a regular consumer laptop or desktop, the chances are you don't have a dedicated graphics card in there. So all of this is working off that integrated graphics on your CPU. And this is just too much. It's just too much for integrated CPUs to handle these days. It mounts up and it mounts up. So what do we do about that? Well, we undertook a little bit of work sort of benchmarking some of these results. We realized that, you know, workstations are synonymous with graphics cards. So we did a little bit of benchmarking work here. We took, now bearing in mind this work was done last year, so this was on the previous year's technology. We are working on benchmarks for this year to kind of prove the point. But we took a T490, okay? Now this, at the time, was the world's best-selling laptop. We sold more T490s across the world than any other manufacturer sold any other model. It's a brilliant bit of kit. You know, there's a good reason why it's so prevalent. You know, it really is an amazing bit of kit with an i7 CPU, 16 gigs of RAM, a nice fast M.2 hard drive in there. It actually gave us a brilliant benchmark score. Now, just to sort of talk about the benchmark a little bit, PC Mark 10 we used because it benchmarks application performance. Okay. Instead of just benchmarking hardware, no one's interested in how fast the hardware works. You know, at the end of the day, it's the same across every bit of kit. You know, every manufacturer has the same bit of kit. So we're not interested in hardware performance. We're interested here in application performance. And that's what PC Mark 10 gives us. So as I said before, this T series really spat out a really good score for us. It really was good. But we thought, okay, knowing what we know with the increase in GPU consumption, let's do the same exercise with a graphics card in. Now, the T series is fortunate enough to have a very basic dedicated graphics card option. We took one of those, run the same benchmarks, and we saw a 17% increase in performance. This is application performance. Now, just to reiterate what this application does, PC Mark 10 actually allows Word and Excel and a couple of other Office applications to open. It benchmarks the time that it takes to open. It runs a few workflows within those applications, and then closes it all down again. And that's where you get your benchmark score. So it actually does a few real-to-life workflows in Office, and that's where these scores come from. And now a 17% increase just with a dedicated GPU is a huge increase, right? So we thought, okay. Again, looking at workstations, we move to our P series. Now, the P43S that you see here, it is like for like, you know, as near as makes no difference, a T series, okay? It uses the same chassis, it uses exactly the same processor, same memory, same hard drives. The only difference is that it has an entry-level Quadro professional grade graphics card. And straight off the bat, we saw a 23% increase over the original T490. Now that's astonishing. Let's put this into perspective of what this means for your users. Say we've got any given finance user, say her name's Sarita. Okay, Sarita on a day-to-day basis, she works with a T490. And it's a great bit of kit. It works really well. But over the course of the day, she might be losing maybe as much as 5% in productivity, just waiting for applications to load, you know, and that's getting longer and longer each time she's using them. The data sets that she's working with are getting bigger and bigger. So it's taking her longer and longer to get through all of that information, to scroll through it, to look through it, to analyze it. Now, 5% doesn't really sound like a lot over the course of the day. But when you total that up, say, you know, she's working maybe 7.5 to 8 hours, that's probably as much as 15 to 20 minutes of time just spent waiting for something to happen. And that's not good. Now, if we say that Sarita's earning maybe £50,000 a year, 5% of her day over the course of the year is costing the company £2,500 in lost productivity. That's a huge sum of money, absolutely massive. And when you've got a whole team of people having exactly the same experience, you see where I'm going with this. There's a big issue here. And I guarantee everyone has seen this at some point. Every single company will have seen this issue at some point. Now, in comes this P43S. It is an entry-level workstation, okay? The average cost up is only as little as $150 from that T490 without a graphics card. So it's not a big cost increase. But when you look at the return of investment that you're getting here, if we're cutting that 5% productivity deficit every single day, and I guarantee you running Office through a graphics card does cut that productivity deficit and sometimes even gives you more productivity back, it's paying for itself in as little as 3 weeks. And this is where that return of investment is, guys. This is where all of that money that you're putting into your infrastructure starts coming back to you in as little as 3 weeks. Now, obviously, you know, we couldn't do tests like this without running it on a what I call a proper mobile workstation. We took our P1, which is our Halo product. It's got much faster hard drives, much faster memory, much faster hard drives, and of course, we got a massive increase in performance. You know, I'm lucky enough to use one of these P1s as my day-to-day. And it is incredible. You can run all of these applications side by side everything running and you have absolutely no performance issues whatsoever. We've done this exercise with a number of different financial institutions, because these are the guys that were bringing this to us first. A couple of banks in London. We've already done this exercise. We've done it with a couple of energy providers already. This does work, guys. I'm not making any of this up, and please feel free to check me on it. You know, I would love for you to go out, put a entry-level workstation into these areas and tell me that I'm wrong. I'd love for you to do that. Now let's go back to this issue that I mentioned right at the beginning, where people seem to think that workstations are these big old beasties. You know, this P43S, for example, it's only a light, thin laptop. You know, the P1 that I'm talking about, it's 1.7 kilograms, which for a 15-inch laptop is light by any standard, let alone a workstation standard as well. 1.7 kilograms is super light. You know, the whole ThinkPad range benefits from its military spec testing. So it's drop tested, it's heat and cold and temperature shock tested, it's spill proof. You know, these are designed for day-to-day use. You know, if you've ever seen me on a Lenovo stand at any given event in the last few years, you'll have seen me sort of waving these things by the corner of the screen. They're designed to last the day-to-day abuse that these things get. And it means your colleagues have got the mobility that they need. You know, they've got the power of a workstation wherever they need to work from. This P14, okay, the P14S is now the successor to that P43 that we had in the benchmark example. So this is our current product. It's only 1.4 kilograms light. That's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. It's a 14-inch chassis. It's exactly the same size and weight as a regular T-Series laptop. If you're familiar with the ThinkPad range, you'll know what a T-Series looks like. And you get all the goodies that come with a workstation. Okay, we've got a free bit of software called Lenovo Performance Tuner that allows you to dedicate cores on your processor to any application that's running. Now, there are obviously a bunch of pre-configured profiles dedicated for what we consider traditional workstation usage, you know, things like your Autodesk applications, Adobe applications, so on and so forth. But you can add any application in there. And when that application is running and is active, so the application that you're actually working on, Lenovo Performance Tuner can actually lock any specified number of cores to just that application, which means you haven't got things like Windows Update dipping in and using some of that core resource. You haven't got things like Spotify running in the background, you dipping into some of that resource. You know, you're getting dedicated resources for that application, meaning that you're getting the performance that you require at any given time. But it's not just mobiles either. We also have workstations in tiny desktop chassis as well. If you're familiar with the tiny ThinkCenter range, we have a workstation tiny as well. This is just a single 1 liter chassis. It's absolutely tiny. It's about the size of an A5 notepad in sort of footprint if it was laid flat on the table. And it's only about as thick as an inch. It's absolutely tiny, hence the name, obviously. But you can still get your full fat desktop processors in there. You're still getting full speed memory in there. You're still getting a dedicated Quadro graphics card in there, albeit an entry grade one. But as we've already seen in the P43 and the P43S and the P14S, you don't need a big graphics card to do this. Any dedicated graphics card will leverage the possibilities of cutting that productivity deficit. So just have a think, guys. You know, my call to action here for you guys really is have a word with your employees, have a word with your customers, your finance department especially. Ask them what kind of issues they've seen with Office working slow, if you haven't done already. And I do challenge you to just test this product out. You know, we can offer you loan laptops. You know, we can give you a laptop for 2 weeks for you to go and test this and prove me wrong. More than willing to obviously help you get this set up, you know, and tweak any settings that you need to get done. Just all you have to do is reach out to the guys here at Servium or reach out to me directly. It's entirely up to you. But any possibility is up to you here, guys. And with that, I am going to hand back to Steve. Thank you very much for listening. If you do have any questions, please reach out.
Thanks, James. That was really interesting. And the background you've given there, like I say, traditionally people think workstations are for your CAD type users, not your day-to-day users at the moment. So
Absolutely,
yeah.
and whilst that's true, you know, for some parts, it's just not the truth across the board anymore.
Yeah. And you know, I know from personal experience the amount of apps you've got open through the day, and it just builds up, and you know your machine slows down. I know from a Zoom point of view, their recommendation on a standard laptop is close everything else down while you're running Zoom.
And
So,
that's just not possible sometimes. You know, sometimes you need a lot of applications open while you are on Zoom.
Yeah, exactly. Great. Okay. So thanks for that, James. We're going to go to the questions now, and basically, you know, just put you on the spot, really. So first question in here, James, from Alan, in relation to, you know, the current sort of situation we're in with COVID. With most of my team working from home, how can workstations improve their remote working experience?
Well, that's a very good question. I mean, you know, this is all about future proofing. You know, as we've already been through, you know, people trying to work from home might not necessarily have access to some of these big desktops where they are. You might want to start looking at virtualization. And we have a huge array of workstation products that you can virtualize, carve up individual parts of hardware so that you've got, you know, virtual machines working on a single desktop somewhere and have people connecting to each virtual machine. We work with the likes of Teradici, whoever everyone knows. We also work with a company called Mechdyne, who run a one-to-one bit of software called TGX, which utilizes the NVIDIA Quadro graphics cards to compress data better than any other remote working software on the market, meaning you use much less bandwidth. So, you know, your employees that don't necessarily have a good broadband at home, that's not much of a problem. You know, you need only as little as 4 megabits per second to get a proper like local experience with TGX, which is truly awesome.
Okay, thanks for that. A question from Darren. This is more around the aesthetics. Are they all still black in color?
They are across the workstation range. Yeah, we are starting to dive into silvers and dark blues in the commercial lineup. The workstations at the moment, not really designed for aesthetics, although the P1 is a gorgeous bit of kit. But yes, they are still black in the workstation range.
Okay, cool. Question from Jim in relation to physical workstations. A lot of my users don't need a physical workstation, so is there an option for a virtual solution?
Yeah, as we've already touched on, we have a wide portfolio in the workstation, you know, including dual processors, you know, that are almost akin to server technology. And in fact, we do actually have a rackable workstation now called the P920 rack, which is only a 2-unit chassis size, slot straight into your rack wherever you want to put that. You can have multiple graphics cards in there, be it, you know, Quadro graphics card or Tesla's, you know, for true virtualization, up to 3 terabytes of memory. We also have the brand new AMD Threadripper P620, which has up to 64 cores. So, you know, how many virtual machines can you make out of that? And 4 separate graphics cards in a traditional workstation. It's a truly incredible bit of kit.
Cool. Okay, that's good. Well, that's the questions for today. So what I'm going to do now is just I'll just launch the poll and get some feedback from everybody. But also what James mentioned was the sort of call to action there. What we said, look, you know, go back to your users, your customers, and you know, try and identify any performance issues that they're having. Then we can set up a specific one-to-one session and look at getting a low machine out, can't we, James?
Absolutely, yeah.
So again, to help you dispel the myths around the performance, you know, going back to Darren's question on the aesthetics as well, just identify that in the poll, and we'll get in touch to arrange that. But also, you know, get feedback from users, particularly what sort of departments would you say? Finance? You mentioned finance before. Any other specific departments?
Finance is a big one, but anywhere where they're dealing with large amounts of data in office and your day-to-day applications. To be honest, you'll probably see this issue across every department. but we do tend to see this most prevalently in the finance department.
Yeah, okay. So if you want to identify that in the poll, and then we can arrange that and in partnership with Lenovo. So thanks James. Really appreciate you taking the time today. And also just to mention as well, we do have a white paper that we put together with Lenovo. It's one of our opinion papers. It is available to download. If you like a copy, again, drop us an email, get in touch with the account manager, and we can we'll send you a copy of our opinion paper. So that's it for today. Just while I summarise, give you time to complete the poll. Our next INOOT is on Friday, the 11th of December. So this is just one left to go. This is our last one of 2020, and then we'll be taking a bit of a break for Christmas. But we're partnering with a company called Cumulo, which is all around legacy data storage solutions, and basically helping you look at your data in partnership with Cumulo, the sort of challenge you might face around the sort of data platforms that you have to help improve performance and give better economics. So it's quite a unique and innovative solution, that. So you'll be able to register that now on our INOOT hub, and invitations will also be coming out next week. So keep your eye out for that on Friday, the 11th of December. So it's the last episode in season 5.